everybody go tapping with the pot with Tigmatic.
Y'all tune into the Pop Podcast. And guess what? There's an
episode and you are tuned into the Pot Podcast.
And with the Pot Podcast with my boy Tigmatic. You hear me? It's going down. To follow the Pot Podcast with Tigmatic.
That's that number one.
That's that number one.
V-Ray's going too hard though. Don't cry, dry your eyes till you weep. When faith is low and trust is hard till we It's like I prayed and I prayed and I praise some more. It's like the desires of my heart won't on your mind no more. Drowned in the water, couldn't find you, no car, see a boat. Know why you ignoring me, yeah. Seen people blessed with my request, like now you gotta be teasing. Telling myself it's in due season, like I'm really believing. My blessing came once I realized delayed for a reason. You not hear me, yeah. Don't cry, dry your eyes till you weep.
live up in the moment. Put my trust in God, cause he never leave me lonely. I was trusting in my homies till he showed me they won't for me. I just wait on God, cause he'll remove them. Man, I'm many talents, I just try my best to use them. Gotta feel my purpose, if I don't, my life was useless. This a different type of music, but who else was built to do this? I just wait on God and let him use me. When faith get low and trust get hard, don't cry, wait on God, on God, on God, on God.
Don't cry, dry your eyes till you wait on God. When faith is low and trust is hard, till you wait on God.
Just wait on God.
Made up my mind that I can't be outside his will. That I'ma do nothing but trust him despite how I feel. When your emotions don't change your confession, it's real. You gotta keep your faith strong. That's the simplest I know. Guard what you look at and what you let between your ears. God good, his showers of comfort outweigh all your stress. It's true, I had to share this good news to all my peers. Your timing, not his timing, and the spirit I heard him say. If he didn't do it, no, it's not because it couldn't be done. You just weren't mature enough to handle it. And he ain't just gonna bless anyone. Wait on God. Don't cry, dry your eyes till you wait on God. When faith is low and trust is hard, till you wait on God.
I remember when I first started, on go like Monopoly boards. I need a place to park it. I used to always wanna have a boat, but I always had the iron on me. Shoot, I always kept it toast. I used to always want the race car, but I always had my dogs, man, and that was who I needed most. You get the boot, you don't want the thimble. Little man on a horse, I was sport like a polo symbol. What you want ain't always what you need, and what you need ain't always what you want. If they try to make you play the back, tell them that Rosa Parks sat in the front. It's like I need to be alone, I wanna be in my zone. Just like I need my contacts, but don't want a phone. I got them anywhere minutes, cause I love to roam. I tell her that it's open field, but I love the dome. She keeps screaming I'm a dog, cause I love the bone. She gon' make me growl at her all through the phone. How you miss me, you don't hit me up. You see me, girl, I'm still standing, I ain't ever duck. Listen up, what you want ain't always what you need, and what you need ain't always what you want. If they try to make you play the back, tell them that Rosa Parks sat in the front. Every time neighbors say I wouldn't be nothing, I reply back that I'ma keep coming. I'm high right now, when I hit the ground, I'ma be running. They gon' make me have to book a T something, see something, gotta give, or forfeit for you to be something. So it's best that you don't wanna need, youngin'. The difference between something you dream and something that seen nothing but a bunch of people that be mean mugging. See, youngin', look, I've been in it a minute now. I started and I finished now. No more folding the dough that I'm holding. I think I'm gonna start me a business now. I'm worried about fitness now. My stomach ridiculous now. I get it, I flip it, I flips it. I think that I'm finished now. What you want ain't always what you need, and what you need ain't always what you want. If they try to make you play the back, tell them that Rosa Parks sat in the front.
My brothers chose different roles, so we don't grind together. But if we was broke together, we gon' shine together. I played my part from the start, none of time is better. So my love for rhyming will have me up in my prime forever. I was chasing these dreams and never slowed up. Stood tall through it all and never fooled up. I just gymming for Dedit, saving lettuce and stacking these casseroles so the chickens gon' lick the cold cuts. This time around, I gotta make them sick. Rappers passing the casting call, don't make the script. You just gotta close your eyes and you can visualize it. Have you nodding to these bars before you make the wish. Just praying this city won't be the death of me. Got a strap on scepter and it's stressing me. So that look that I'm giving, it's like telepathy, a warning or a blessing, whatever, but ain't no testing me. But Zana pull his tech on you need be like he ain't earning stripes like a referee in the D-League. Bit whistle round the neck, hanging by the ropes, make that blood splatter, leave you shattered like kaleidoscopes. Fully automatic, my words hurt worse than a chick with a broken heart from her slurs. That's my word, I make words curve. So third verse, metaphors and similes is wavy, so the verb surf. Them hammers holding rounds of applause, so give it up, ain't got worried about me sounding it off. We talking down to the law while we handing them off. My middle finger to the sky, my other hand on my ball. It's like that. Believe they coming right back. If I rap about the truth, your favorite rapper might rap. So it's past story isn't baiting to my expiration. I'm dreaming about the penthouses, but I rap the basement. Chiz told me that they tired of the old thing. Turn over and over, made our own lane. Stay true to my living like expensive denims. Cause I believe in my team, my music is religion. And when you really love rapping, brother, it ain't nothing. Killing them with wordplay, and this is just my introduction. Stay down, better hashtag it. That's the motto for the summer. I'm finally on my slumber like that.
Yo, what's up, y'all? You're now tuned into another episode of the Podcast with Tigmatic. Hey, listen, we're here, y'all. Episode 160. I hope y'all feeling good on this Wednesday night. I'm feeling great. I feel good. Y'all know the rest. But I ain't going to keep going with it. All right. Listen, I have my guest today, and he's more than an awesome soul. This man is a journalist, and listen, he captured the stories like no one can, man. And this is grassroots family as well. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna chop it up, talk mental health, talk journalism, and just have a real conversation as always. Once again, as always, this episode was brought to you by Hollywood TV, Hollywood Radio, Going In Radio, Dollar Radio, DamaniBrand.com, and North Shade Demore Boutique. Listen, y'all need to go pop up. It's all types of stuff they got for the summer. It's still here. The summer will be closing soon. And kids will be going back to school soon. So listen, go cop up. Get the clothes. And not just clothes, y'all. Accessories as well. All right. So, like I said, my guest is here. He's in the back. He's chilling. And we're about to get to it. So, without further ado, I'll give you my guest, KBLA host, radio extraordinaire, James Farr. What's going on, my guy?
Big Tig, what's good with you? How you doing, brother? Thank you for having me. And how much do I owe you for the compliments, brother?
What's going on, bro?
Doing well, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for holding this space. Thank you for just being you, brother.
Hey, man, listen, that's all we can do out here. So before we get into it, I like to let my guests have the floor and give themselves a formal rundown and introduction of who they are. So, Solo Dolo Cam for you. The floor is yours, my guy.
I'm not that interesting, but I'll keep it very short. James Farr, I host Conversation Live, Altadena Rising, on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm a journalist, and I write for the Los Angeles Progressive, LA Progressive, documentary filmmaker, husband, father, social entrepreneur, but I show up in the world as a Black man first.
That's right. That's right. So, I want to say first and foremost, welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you, man.
Welcome.
Show 160, huh? That's big ups. So you got any effects? The big ups.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to figure that out. I've been trying to figure it out. I got this equipment, but I got to figure it out. Once I figure it out, I will be there. But I'm working on it. I don't know if they can hear it, but I'll click the button anyway. All right. So before we get into it, man, I met you in LA at our convening for BLM Grassroots, and I got to be in the station KBLA 1580. You want to tell the people a bit how you got started at KBLA, or before we even get to KBLA, let's talk a bit about how you became a journalist and a radio host.
Whew, man, I hope we have enough time because that is a long arc. But essentially, I started a platform almost a decade ago called Conversation Live, where it was a hyper local, similar to what we're doing right now in space. I did it through cable access TV. And my tent poles, the things that I focused on were social justice, restorative justice, inclusion, and equality. And so I kind of worked around that space, specifically around state-sponsored violence, police violence, community-centered work around organizing. In fact, our intersection, as you brought up, Black Lives Matter grassroots. I think one of the very early interviews I did was with Dr. Melina Abdullah. May have been my third or fourth episode, and I think wasn't in its current iteration, but there was a BLM handle that was out there, and I think the organization may have been around maybe 2 or 3 years at that time. The writing is just an extension of the voice part of what I do, but it all starts with reading and writing and showing up.
Oh man, that's awesome. Listen.
So I don't know if wait a minute. I want to make sure I answer that question and completely answer.
Oh, that was perfect. That was perfect. A perfect answer.
Yeah,
so I want to ask you, man. I read the article you sent to me, and I want to be very transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate so much to how you felt. Now, as far as the journalism, like I know, I'm kind of new into journalism. But the feelings and emotions that you had covering stories, seeing people and what they go through, I can understand that part. I've had my own little trials and tribulations as well. So going through what I've gone through, it's similar in a way. But when you go through anxiety from hearing other people's stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seeing the things that you've seen, right? What would you say was a bit difficult for you in the moment, like at a moment that when you seen it? Like if you care to chop it up a bit about that. Something that you saw that really hit you so hard. I don't want to give up the sauce and the article too much, so I'd rather hear it from you.
Sure. You're talking about a piece I wrote maybe 2 years ago in the LA Progressive, Black, I can't even remember the title right now, but Black Media, the Trauma Between the Headlines, I think was the title of it. And really what I was coming to understand at that particular moment after talking with other professionals that are in this space, I had never heard of the idea of trauma journalism, right? And the things that you cover and are exposed to, and how they impact you, right? And how they affect you. this particular piece was centered, excuse me, a lot around some of the work that Black Lives Matter Works was doing, grassroots, I'm sorry, was doing with their rapid respond, be it in Buffalo a few years back after the terrorist execution of community members in Buffalo, or perhaps it was the response to Akron, Ohio, um, to another police homicide, or down in Tampa, Florida, covering a trial that, some folks well, the Josephs, Andrew Indiana Joseph,
Central Indiana.
as some of the work that you guys are doing through advocacy and the elimination or seeking to eliminate qualified immunity. Well,
Yes.
when you pack all of that in, right, and what I just told you about were three separate events that I was present for within a matter of 3 or 4 months, and I went to Buffalo over a month, probably 3 times, and was invited back to speak and a few other things. And one of the things that you realize is, you ingest all of this trauma, right? As I write in that article, I have to hold a certain space, right? I can't be too reactionary. I have to ask people questions that their face is visibly telling me the answer to.
Right.
And then after all of that, you retreat back into a hotel room, and there isn't the comfort of home. There isn't the hug from the kids, the wife, the dog, normalcy. And you're just kind of left to just sit with that. And so um, there was a time before that where I was covering a case, a police shooting locally in my area, and I had some of the autopsy pictures. And it's not anything new that I haven't seen before. When you start reading police reports as in detailed as I do, and perhaps like depositions, you kind of develop a tolerance, right? A little bit of
Yeah.
callous, if you will. Um, you get a little tough, I think, right? And as I was trying to wordsmith this particular piece, which I never could finish, but as I was trying to wordsmith it, I found myself kind of in this space of, am I really getting across what I'm looking at? And I just couldn't find the wording right. I was in my flow. I like, my style is talking in cursive. It's my own conversational art. It's kind of what I do with the pen, keyboard, and a microphone. Um, and that manila envelope was just sitting on a desk, and I kept looking at it and kept looking at it, and I kept looking at the photos, and I kept looking at the photos. And I said, this isn't healthy. This isn't
Mhm.
right. And so that kind of was the nexus to that piece that I would write, um, about the trauma between the headlines and what we are exposed to, um, and how we do this type of work.
Yeah, I can imagine what it's like because, you know, seeing other people's trauma and bodies for one can be a lot. And not only do you have to sympathize and empathize, you have to get the story out. So what was your
Let's be no. Let me clear you up. Let's be clear on that. I choose to get the story out. I don't have to.
yeah, you don't have to. You
And so
choose to
I
because you
walk
want to
in.
highlight
Yeah.
this injustice. That's right.
So well, yes, that hopefully is an outcome, right? But
Right.
I want to make sure that your audience knows that I choose to do it voluntarily.
That's right.
I choose to re-expose myself to that type of trauma. Um, no one's making me. It is, a sacred duty. It is, my job to bear witness and be an observer. And as Dr. Abdullah talks about, to be that lion that tells the story courageously and fearlessly.
Yeah. And to expose, these officers and things like that is no easy feat within itself.
More than a notion, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine, man, like just having to go through what you have to go through. Let me ask you, because I don't know. So have you ever had like any problems, like the cops try to give you problems with what you do or anything like that?
Define a problem. What do you mean by a problem?
Well, try to stop you from taking pictures, things of that nature.
Not in that way, right?
Okay.
I'm very much aware of a municipality having a file on me.
Yeah.
I've had plain clothes, and I'm not talking about, suit and tie type
Undies. Yeah, the
detectives,
undies.
jump out boys, right? you know, approach in a public space and speak to me by name and just to kind of let me know that hello, type
We know who you
things.
are type thing.
Those type of things. But one
Yeah.
thing I would encourage anyone, man, if this is a path for you, um, the best way is to keep going and to continue to tell the truth, right? And your community will provide that sanctuary and harbor. If your community, if they know that your community has your back, they're less inclined. And then the other thing I don't do, I've never printed anything that I can't back up. I've
That's
never
right.
reported anything that I can't evidence. I don't fabricate or make up anything, right? And so if it's in the public record, the public space, I don't attack, families, they're them personally. I can look at it in black and white and call it exactly what it is, and that's all I'm interested in.
The facts.
The facts. That's it.
Straight like that. Y'all hear James? He's telling y'all, listen, he's all about the facts. So don't be, getting mad when he tell the truth at y'all, because the truth shall set you free.
Well,
As always.
it does go both ways. There's an and a but, right? The truth isn't always palatable. It's not always what we want to hear, right?
That's
And
right.
um, and so I'm not an apologist for those who oppress and perpetrate. But the truth is the truth. Um, but also understand a lot of times that there's a difference between the truth and a narrative that police may promulgate or propagandize in a situation in an effort to get ahead of a situation. And let me give you an example of that. Back 2020, here locally in Pasadena, right around the time that the rest of the world was erupting, and social justice uprising. A young brother was shot in the back running from the police here in our city. He was a passenger in a vehicle. It was a pretextual stop. I think maybe no license plate and tinted windows. Um, Whatever was in that brother's background was not known to those officers at the time that they made that contact, right?
Right.
But the story that they led with was everything that they didn't know about him in an effort to frame up a narrative to kind of distance themselves away from what anyone who has seen the body worn camera footage and any available other surveillance footage reasonably has to believe that this officer couldn't have thought his life was in danger. And in fact,
Right.
he actually put civilians' lives in danger, firing in and at, homes, apartments, and in a public park.
Right. Putting everybody at risk.
Everybody at risk.
Right.
Um, Two to the back, and then they lied and said, and that brother, we'll say his name, Anthony McLean. That brother was shot
Anthony
twice
McLean.
in the
Rest in
back.
peace.
and I had never heard of what a flank is on a body, right? And then when I called up and started looking it up, I said, the flank they would say is the side. No, that's the back. That bullet went straight through the back and out the side. And so, you know, it's a lot to ingest.
Yeah, one thing, that I know for certain is in a lot of instances when these things occur, they will try to make it seem like the person that was the victim did all of this crime or whatever they had going on, whatever their record was, they'll really put that out there as much as possible, right? To try to dehumanize them. And I always felt like it is our goal and our duty to humanize them as much as possible, talk about the good, the things that they've, done that are positive, because they want to fit that narrative like you were talking about. They want to spin it and make it seem like, oh, well, he was a criminal anyway. This is what he deserves. And listen, we got immunity. We're going to get off anyway. And that's the plight that they try to keep, throughout the years. And it continues to happen, which is why people like us need to continue to expose them and tell these stories. So tell me a little bit about Altadena Rising yourself.
Sure. And you had asked earlier, and I don't think I completely answered that question. So on January, you asked how did I start the show? How did the show come about on KBLA?
Right.
In January of this year, January 7th to be exact, we were our community was in the middle of a 100-year storm. Hurricane force winds. Winds up to 80, 90 miles an hour, and there's an area. We're in the foothills. We're you LA is one of those places. I've never done it, but you can surf, ski, and go to the desert all in the same day, right?
Yeah.
and so on this particular day, the winds were extremely high. What we now know is that there was a power failure from a utility company. One of their utility poles caught on fire, started a brush fire. That fire spread and eventually overnight would have burned over 9,000 structures, displacing upwards of 25,000 people. Simultaneously, there were fires burning in what others heard, which is an area of Los Angeles, city of Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades, a more affluent area. But here in Altadena, just imagine this picture. If Wakanda were a real place,
Right.
Altadena would be one of his communities. You're talking about a community where 80% of the Black folks that lived there were homeowners.
Yeah, it
You're
was a
talking
very
about
historical place from what I heard.
it's a
Yeah.
small enclave, and so once that happened, my family and I were evacuated. We live probably about 3/4 of a mile from where the fire started. We were fortunate that the police came through our neighborhood on a PA system, telling us to leave right now. We left, came back the next day, to check on our home. We learned our entire neighborhood is fine, but folks to the west of us didn't fare so well, and it, seemingly hit especially hard in that mostly African American, this Black community. As a result of that, seeing the totality of the damage, seeing what the despair was, Mr. Tavis Smiley, the owner of KBLA, reached out to me. I had already been contributing on First Things First with Dominic DePrima. I had been on This Is Not a Drill many times over the years. In fact, some of those earlier stories we were talking about, I was reporting back on air with updates, from the field, be it from Buffalo, Akron, or Tampa.
Yeah. Shout out
Mrs.
to the queen too.
Yeah. Oh, come on now. That's the queen, the GOAT.
Yeah,
Um,
she just on last Wednesday.
oh, awesome. Yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah,
Mr. Smiley, really taking his agency and understanding that, you know, if this black owned station does not tell this story, who else will?
that's right.
Um, by that, matter of a few weeks, months, I mean, I probably talked to already 100 people. Um, I know over 200 families that were directly impacted and lost everything. Um, Through my other work and agency, I have relationships with the elected, as they truly say, the suites to the streets. I could move in all of those spaces.
Right.
I had already been, what I've learned is what do they call it, a trusted voice in the community. And so it seemed like a natural idea, which Mr. Smiley had, that, he said, James, are you interested in doing a show weekly? Um, I said, when? He said, maybe a week from now. I said, not quite that fast. So, I mean, but literally, from the time, in fact, Dominique gave me that call first before I met with him. We met, we discussed some things, and I kind of understood what his vision is. Now, I had never, we call it the one and the two chair in radio, right? She's always in the one chair. She's driving. I'm just there, popping off, right?
Right,
Irritating
right.
her, right? Sometimes on the other side of an argument, so I'd never flew the thing, but I had done well over 400 episodes, be it 30 minutes
Impressive.
or an hour formatted episode of the Conversation Live. So I wasn't unfamiliar to that part of it, but it's a little bit nerve wracking when you have such an iconic and legendary journalist broadcaster like Tavis Smiley standing in the control room your first time on his radio station, looking at you for every word that comes out of your mouth. But we're now about 20 episodes in. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass will be on this Saturday. Looking forward to that conversation. So that's Conversation Live Altadena Rising, where we are focusing on the roots, the resilience, the relief, recovery, rebuilding, and reunion of this beautiful city.
So that's awesome, man. To to have Tavis, first of all, he is the GOAT. He is the ultimate GOAT. I told you that, but that's like the top of the De La Creme for me. You
Oh,
know,
that's Jordan. Now you and I can argue Jordan, LeBron, or Kobe, right?
right,
If you put three of us in the barbershop, all of us are right,
right,
from
right.
perspective. But I ain't hearing nothing you got to say about them other two, because my goat is already secured,
That's a fact.
solidified.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
But and that was a great analogy because that's Tavis. That's how it is. And I remember watching him as a youngin', and I'm gonna keep it all the way funky, because that's what I do here. Uh, my folks, they wasn't really big on watching the news and stuff like that, but me, I watched Tavis. I was one of
Mhm.
them young ones who was like, "No, don't change the station. What you doing?" And they would dip out, and I'd watch. So for me, to be in his station, it felt very surreal for me, first of
Mm, mm.
all. And
I'm
it
gonna give you,
was
I'm gonna give you one more, right? Because you just never know how life intersects, right?
yeah,
Dominique, who you had on last week, Dominique DePrima, she
she's
and I are
awesome.
both from the San Francisco Bay Area. She's from San Francisco. I'm from a little city outside of San Francisco called Richmond, California. Well, Dominique, I watched your interview with her. Very great job. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
as she was, touting off those Emmys that she won hosting that show Home Turf, right? She see how she just said it casually. She won a national one, right? As a teenager, I used to watch that show.
Really?
Yeah, and so as life would have it, I grew up watching her, and she was one of those early pioneers in that space, right? There wasn't what we're able to do right now. I mean, she was really on TV, like
Yeah, she was on
really on,
TV for real.
like for real, in real life, right?
Yeah,
And it was a big deal for her show to come to your local, to the high schools or to be picked or whatever. And so when fast forward two people whose careers I've watched, admired, tracked, and now, to professionally be able to call them colleagues is cool. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
But it's also a lot of pressure because those are goats, and they expect me to show up as a sheep.
Hey man, listen, like I told you, I consider you one of the goats in radio because you're doing what you're doing. You're doing it well.
Thank you, brother.
And I commend you, man. And to be on with Dominique, man, listen. I told her, I know you saw the episode, so you know how I told her, like, yo, I kept staring at you when we was in the Center for Black Power. And I'm like, I knew I seen her before. And I kept saying it to myself, and I'm like, yo. So once I read her bio before interviewing her, and even, when we were in the center and she walked up to me with the mic and everything, and I'm like, it still didn't, click for me. So when I found out everything that she's done out here, I'm like, yo, this is really a pioneer. This is really a GOAT.
Yeah.
And to have a moment with one of the GOATs, I can understand exactly how you feel, man. And you got to do it. You get to do it every day. So I know that's amazing.
Almost, but
yeah,
yes.
almost every day. Yeah, but I know that's an amazing feeling,
Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's definitely awesome, man. All right, so let's get into it. All right. So let's break it down a bit. Let's talk about Richmond, California. What was growing up there like for you?
Oh man. First of all, I'd have to start with the city's motto, right? Because it is truly one of those cities. The motto is a city of pride and purpose. And anyone that knows anyone from Richmond knows that that's the bounce that they walk with, right? Like there's something distinctive about cats and people from Richmond that's not quite Oakland. It isn't San Francisco.
Right.
It's almost like a Philly vibe, right? Like a cat from Philly, and you can separate him from Baltimore, you can separate him from DC, you can separate him from New York, right? Like it just has its own unique.
It's my hometown.
Yeah, and so Richmond was a city like many other cities. It was established. Black folks start migrating in the early 1900s because of the shipyards, the World War II and stuff, and
right.
And so many families migrated there, and kind of formed churches and communities and different enclaves. And so it was at a time where we grew up where the worst that would happen to you is you got your butt whooped, right? It wasn't no shooting and nothing like that. Wasn't no gangs, we didn't organize like that. It was neighborhoods, it was families, and there was, some of the toughest guys, Richmond, kind of does this thing where you have to kick somebody's ass twice.
Right.
And so that's just kind of how it moved. For me growing up there, I was, my family was involved in church, sports. My father was a pastor. He was also an elected official. And so I had some duality of, here we go again, streets to the sweets. The streets wouldn't let me play because they knew my family. And, the suites, when I would go into certain spaces with my father, I became very porous and absorbent and observant and just really, as we'd say, on the soil, soaking up the game. Um, I guess perhaps notably, you may have heard of someone named Master P. P
Oh yeah.
started his first record store in Richmond. You may have heard of a rapper, my favorite rapper, E40. Well,
Okay.
E40 got his whole slanguage from a guy out of Richmond, California, named Calvin T and Magic Mike. And so it's such a special place. It's so special for me that I named my son Richmond. Um,
Really?
I did.
Oh,
That's
that's
real talk.
awesome.
That's
That's
real
that's
talk.
that's that's dope. I ain't even going front. That's dope.
It means
Yeah.
that much to me. It means I met my wife in Richmond. You know what I mean? And so,
How long
um,
you been married?
almost 26. Next month, be 26 years.
Okay, okay. That's cool, man. I've been married for 15, with her for 20.
Okay.
It's
They
cool,
don't
man.
count them years in county, brother.
Yeah, I know. I know. They tell me all the time, like, yo, the other five don't count, bro. It wasn't official. I'm like, yeah, I know, but to us men, it still count because
I
we
feel
was in
you.
there. All right, man. Oh man. All right. So, how did that community shape your understanding of activism and Black unity?
Whew, man. So Oakland is 12, 15 miles away, the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. Okay. And so Northern California and Southern California might as well be in two different states, in two different countries, because the way people move is just so different. Their consciousness is so different. And so I was immersed in those type of. Dominique talks about this out all the time, and I certainly want to make sure that I attribute this to her. But we are children of a movement in one sense, and so I
Right.
think the fact that we show, at least I show up this way, um, is not an accident, as much as it's not on me, it's in me.
It's
And
in
and
you.
and those were the things that I was exposed to. I had examples of people speaking justly, speaking out, or maybe it was Reverend Jesse Jackson when he was running in 1984, and he came through town, or it was the stories about the Black Panthers that you would hear at maybe a different friend's house, or even something that I would learn about my father when he was held office in a college district, that as a student he fought, and then eventually when he got elected, to get something that we take for granted as simple as MLK Day as a holiday for that school district, right?
That's right.
And so those very granular examples, right, or those things that are, as children, we observe and absorb, right? What we put into our children is likely to what's going to come out. Doesn't mean it's always going to come out the same exact way, but it's that
Right.
exposure. So that was my upbringing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, who was the one in your house as a youngin that basically saw your talent for journalism and pushed you to go that path, go towards that path? I
I,
would
I
say.
I think if there were a fictionalized television family that represented my family, it would be the Evans family. My brother,
Okay.
older 8 years than me,
So he
very
was JJ.
gregarious, very gregarious, s- love to keep the energy, and just a good time, incredible basketball player, professional coach. My sister Thelma, all through and through, My father was, James, except for, a little bit more gainfully employed, and was able to provide different opportunities. But stern, a daddy's daddy, right?
Right.
But it was the nurturing of my mother, who I would later learn was an excellent writer. But I was Michael Evans in the family. I was reading, I was questioning. So it would definitely would have been my mother.
Super smart.
Yeah, as I don't know about the smart
Michael was
part.
super smart, man.
I'd
He
like
got
to
into
say
a
it was
little bit of
sharp.
trouble too, but
Yeah, yeah. And so for me, talk radio was something that my father enjoyed listening to. And so I think, well, in this where I'm at now, I'm realizing how much that influenced me and informed me, and how much it was something that we shared.
yeah,
And so to be able to kind of honor that part of our relationship, he passed about 7 years ago, but as a way of honoring that part of our relationship, um, I know he's proud, and I know that when I started on this journey, he was able to at that time offer me some advice that I was open to, that perhaps I may not have been open to, as a younger man finding my way.
hey. Now we're gonna get into that right after this commercial break. I want y'all to sit back and enjoy this conversation. We moving and booming, y'all. Hollywood TV, the one and only James Farr is here, and we will be right back, y'all. So sit back and relax. We'll be back.
We coming in from the door, man, on folks them. Y'all already know, cuz. Yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah, 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 hey, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, I rock all this white like I'm godly. Sushi gon' come with wasabi. Fresh off the steps of the porch. I walk out, get in a Porsche. Know that I'm using the force. Know that I mastered the course. Known as the plug and the source. Haters, they feeling remorse. This for my dogs in court. That's facing the judge and the jury. My brother, he made it in sports. And that's why he rock all that jewelry. She can remember me now. Know that my vision is blurry. I got these racks on me now. Know that the money done cured me. Know that I'm lit in my city. Know that I'm hot. Know that we poppin', man. Everybody chasing that cloud. Running their mouth. Know I really feed the game. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold up. We on the beaches and right off the coast. Down here in Florida, we doing the most. The hustle on South Beach is like a LeBron. You call it a pound and we call it a bomb. We at the lick and I'm working with chicken. Shout out my nigga from Memphis, they chicken. For my dog and themselves, know I know that they listening. Yeah, I'm on a new level just like I'm Hendrix. Straight from the gutter, we come from the trenches. We ball on these niggas, they sit on the bench. They using the style and I swear I ain't landing. We pushing the P and the P is for profit. They watching and listening, now look how they copy. They hate and respect it, but gotta acknowledge me. Know that a nigga be doing a lot. Know that I'm lit in my city. Know that I'm hot. Know that we poppin', man. Everybody chasing that cloud, running their mouth. Know I really feed the game.
Chaz Jackson has been incarcerated since 2014 for a crime he did not commit. He was falsely arrested and later wrongfully convicted on human trafficking charges, despite Anaheim PD Detective Paul Delgado admitting he had no probable cause or warrant for Chaz's arrest. Shockingly, Chaz's case was dismissed twice before being improperly filed a third time, an outright violation of California's two-dismissal rule. In August 2024, Chaz's new defense team filed a motion under California's Racial Justice Act, uncovering blatant racial discrimination embedded in this trial. From law enforcement officers to court officials, disturbing racial biases were exposed in the prosecution's narrative. Anaheim Detective Paul Delgado and Lieutenant Craig Friesen perpetuated stereotypes and biased assumptions about black men being predisposed to criminal behavior, with Friesen testifying to the jury, "I don't mean to racially categorize, but the pimps, the people involved, are generally black." Language like this directly links Chaz's conviction to his race, not evidence. Perhaps the most shocking instance was during jury selection when Judge Stephen Bromberg told the jury that Chaz, as an quote-unquote African-American and black, was probably the defendant, a blatant display of racial bias made directly in front of the jury. Chaz's conviction is not just a wrongful conviction, it's a case study in racial injustice. He was sentenced to 99 years to life at only 26-year-old based on bias, not on justice or evidence. Please join me in demanding justice for Chaz Jackson. We call on Orange County Superior Court Judge Richard M. King, California Attorney General Rob Bonta, Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer, and Deputy District Attorney Holly M. Wasner to recognize the undeniable facts of Chaz's case and deliver true justice. His conviction must be vacated and his case dismissed with prejudice under the Racial Justice Act. Sign the petition to support Chaz, linked in bio, in his fight for freedom and to end racial injustice in our legal system. Together we can make a difference.
All right, y'all. Free Chaz Jackson. That's all I'm going to say on that. Straight like that. We back, y'all. We off the break. I got James Farr here with me. And we sitting here having a good time, man. I seen you was bopping to the songs a bit. That was Smiley.
That was a slapper.
Yeah, that's Smiley from Florida, co-owner of the Florida Tropics. The ABA is back, so it's about to be a whole lot going on TV. The ABA, you know, the NBA is kind of dwindling down as far as viewership. So now they have an opportunity. They just got their arena built down in Fort Lauderdale, and the season's about to start. So we'll see NBA and ABA games now. So that's going to be fire. All right.
You know, for the record, the ABA was a better league at its height than the NBA was. But that's
Absolutely.
a whole nother, that's another show and another conversation.
But I agree. And it was more defense then. Way more defense. So, you know, like you said, that's another conversation for another time. All right. So let's talk a bit more about upbringing for a second. Were conversations about mental health part of your upbringing?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Yeah, you know, a lot of us experienced that. You know, I can say the same thing. It wasn't really brought up like that. Mental health for I would say for our era, I would say the strips. That's how we dealt with mental health. Give it to God, pray, give it to God, and let him sort it out. But there were also steps that we had to do, but we just didn't really realize it. You know, you realize it when you get older. And, you know, now we're in a space now where people speak more about mental health, and it's easier because so many people are talking about it. Okay. Solo Dolo Cam for you. Next question. Who were your early role models? And who helped you make sense of the world growing up?
Man, that's a very good question. You know, I would say let me really give this its proper context and its just due, and it probably seems very cliche, but it would be my mother and father. And I say that because, your mother is your first teacher. Um, your father is your first instructor. And then when you have those two in a, what we now call an intact family, right? Or traditional family, or those are the role models, right? Those are the first people who establish the standards, give you a baseline of what things should be. There's always those, external people that you look at and look up to. I loved reading Baldwin as a kid because his name was James, right? That was
That's right.
that was the easy sell to me, right?
His name James, my name
My
James.
name James,
God, let me get into
and the other book that had James on it was the King James version, and I wasn't with thee, thou, and thou, right? No one that I couldn't quite get with that.
right.
I enjoyed reading August Wilson plays as a kid, and understanding that form of storytelling. I was a voracious reader as a kid. I would read magazines. I'd read anything that was long format. Never read a comic book in my life. I don't do sci-fi. Um, I don't do fantastical type stuff, fiction type stuff. Anything that was autobiographical. I'm stumbling with my word.
Autobiographies.
Thank you, brother. Those were things that interest me. History books, obviously, until I start learning that that was their story and not ours, and that only encouraged me to want to read more. I being the youngest of three and with a 5 and 8 year gap, that's very much like being an only child, for all, especially having a sister 5 years older, right? So,
Yeah.
my imagination was my best friend. The characters in books, could be like a kid on the park. You could play with them and not even remember their name the next day, right? But it just allowed you to take your thoughts somewhere, take your mind somewhere.
Okay. Okay. So first of all, I want to say this. You ain't never seen one Avengers movie?
No,
Wow.
and in fact, I just saw my very first Jurassic Park film on, I think it was the 4th of July.
Did you like it?
No, and I'm gonna because maybe it was a story I told myself about what the whole thing was about in the first place. I
Yeah.
was I was terrified, right? Like I'm like, these dinosaurs is trying to eat people for 2 hours, right? I thought the white man had tamed the dinosaurs by now, and
First of all, they keep creating them to do all this fancy stuff now, camouflage in and blend in, putting all different types of genetics, and it's crazy. But I do have a friend who played in a Jurassic Park movie. Yeah. Okay. So you like the real, basically. You want the real and only the real. Oh, you went out for a second. Hold on. You muted your mic by accident. You gotta unmute yourself.
there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. In fact, ever since I was a kid, I would watch 60 Minutes, the television, news
Oh
magazine.
yeah, I'm familiar.
I mean, religiously, right?
Really?
That was something I always enjoyed watching. I always enjoyed watching Nightline News. So I was I would watch the news. I knew journalists at that time. Even growing up as a kid, I had an uncle that was a reporter on radio. I have a cousin now who's on radio here in Los Angeles, and so it's kind of something that was around, but not, not a dominant thing.
Yeah.
But it would always interest me, right? And I'd read the newspaper as a kid because my father would read the newspaper every day,
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
newspapers. And
Okay.
it wasn't for the racetrack.
Or the
He didn't want
sports
to know.
section.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted the stories.
Yes.
And that's good, man. You know, that actually was a great segue into my next question. But it seems like you kind of answered it. I was going to ask you what led toward journalism and community-centered storytelling.
Well, there was one specific event that I could point directly to, and it was it was a personal situation where I found myself. I think I may have been 16 or 17, but at the time, as I told you, my father was a pastor and also an elected official. And so with that comes the fishbowl that you live in kind of that space. And there was some controversy at the time, and his supporters had rallied with him. So there's the organizing piece, right? See how that shows up again. But they had shown up, and they had invited a reporter to do what we do, right? To observe and report, to give my father an opportunity to tell his side of the story. And I never forget, I had to be in the 11th grade, so I was 16 years old, and I just left a baseball game. And me and one of my teammates, my good friends, went over to the home where this thing was. And the way the reporter framed up one 16-year-old, one 17-year-old boy, right? Young men, myself and my friend, but the way they framed it up and as kids, right? Like they were kind of painting this kind of unsavory picture, right? This narrative that they wanted to tell about the situation and what was happening with my father. But they chose to kind of weaponize. They didn't know I was a son. They didn't, it didn't matter. But the way that they framed that up, I said, wow, I can't believe anything I read.
Oh, you got muted again. I don't know what's going on while you got muted. There you go. You're still muted. It might be earpiece might be doing it by accident. All right. There you go.
I saw how they were able to frame that story up, and chose. There's no artificial intelligence there. There's no hallucination. A human being actually chose to paint a picture that way. And I thought, how irresponsible. That's a great deal of power.
Yeah,
and it would be much later on that I would, I would learn about COINTELPRO and kind of some of the other things that, these folks will just straight up lie about stuff.
Yeah. I feel like that's their mission. To try to spin and push any type of narrative that makes whoever they're talking about looks bad. Well, look bad, I'm sorry. But I never really understood that, because it's always better to just tell the truth,
Well, I don't know, and it's not my place to say that wasn't their truth. I just know that wasn't the truth.
Right.
But that doesn't
it
mean
was more designed to lean towards a base to get people to feel away, though. You know what I'm saying?
right. All media is biased, right?
Right.
You probably won't hear me write or hear or read something that from me that is, painting police as a savior and a solution. They're not, right? That's my bias. But I'm willing to, I've sat down with several police chiefs, several officers, district attorneys, um, here in Los Angeles County. In fact, all three of the last district attorneys have come through my platform, and especially at an election time. Um, so I don't have I'm not the one that has a problem giving them an opportunity to share their story or tell their truth. I'm just not going to be complicit in them propagandizing or doing a public service announcement for what their agenda is.
So do you find that difficult at times, though, to do that?
No. No, not at all. I think, I think about Dr. Cornel West, remarking to me about me, which even seems weird repeating, right? Because that's Dr. West, but
Right, that's Dr. West.
That's Dr. West, right? And so he tells me that I have a way of telling the truth that is like a musician, and that my truth is tough as steel with gentle kindness. I'm very, I guess that spook that said, I'm very, I'm not intimidating. I'm very inviting. I'm very engaging, but I know what I know. I know how to call BS, and then you can't spin me. Right. I know enough in those situations. If I'm going to ask you a question, I already know the answer. Just want to see what you're going to say.
Yeah, you want to see if they're going to lie.
I expect them to lie. Sometimes I'm entertained by the creativity of the lie, but yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. So mental health is still a taboo topic for a lot of Black households, right? What was your own journey like with mental health awareness?
Like anyone else, traditional Black family, it wasn't something that I was comfortable with or even thought worked or was needed. I think my first few attempts at it, there was a cultural bias that didn't work. I think I struggled to find it was interesting. I wanted to talk to a Black therapist, but then I felt ashamed and embarrassed, right? Like, I don't want, kind of going, that's the story I kept telling myself. And then when I tried to, several start stops, right? It was, I couldn't do it with the white woman. I couldn't do it with the white man. Again, these are all things that perhaps I was telling myself, but then at its core, I know with the two, let's just say non-melanated therapists, right?
It
I
feels
knew that
culturally inappropriate.
yes, they was not going to understand. So I did do one stretch with one, right, where I said, you know what? This is going to be cathartic, hopefully mutually beneficial. Therapists say, they say therapists have therapists, and if you swallow and crap enough, you smell like it, right? On some level. So that was my opportunity to just give it to that cracker. To that.
I get it. But listen, I felt like you as well at one point because until I got a Black therapist, I felt the same way. When I first went through what I went through, we're not going to get deep into that, but you already know. When I went through what I went through, first few years of going to therapy, I wasn't opening up at all. I wouldn't open up, and that was the reason why. She can't relate to me. Like, what am I really going to say that she can relate to? And then I went through several therapists at the time, and then I came across one that was just trying to trauma bond with me, and it was like, whoa, like, this is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody to give me some tools to help me. Like, this is not going to help. I don't need that. So with some people, you just got to fill them out and see if they can really help you. And with mental health, it has its own little trickiness to it, right? Because especially on the therapy side of things, because it is hard to be vulnerable as a Black man because of the way we've grown up in spaces where we couldn't be vulnerable like that because we had to endure and keep going with everything that we're going through. If we feel it, pick it up, keep it moving, and just deal with it, So I can imagine what that was like for you, you know what I'm saying? Because I understand that, I went through that same thing. So let me ask you this. Okay, here's my next question. Solo Dolo Cam for you. You have spoke about some moments where you were impacted, by your own mental health. But could you give us another moment where you felt like it was a little too much or felt like, damn, like what the hell? Have you ever had those moments? Like, what was it like for you where it impacted you mentally, where you felt like you needed a break? And during that time, two-part question. During that time, what did you do to de-stress?
I think the story I shared earlier about the autopsy photos, I'll keep it. I want to keep it in that space because that is something that I've talked about publicly and I'm most comfortable talking about. At that time, I think I went off. I took some time off social media. I took some time off from, reading, writing, just all that. I kind of unplugged, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'm one of those people that, seem like every shooting or something like that. I'm one of those people that people want to send this to me. Have you seen this? Right. And because I'm looking at it discerningly, it's not a one and done for me, right?
Right. There's more coming.
Well, I may watch the same clip, right, incestuously, right, or over and over again, because I may be looking at officers' tactics. And in many cases, you will find that the officers tactically put themselves in a position where they thought that the only option that they had was the use of deadly force, right? Like if they had chose a different path or followed their training, got cover, or not been a cowboy and chased or violated many other policies, right? That are against best practices. And so for me, I think of something like the George Floyd murder, that 9 minutes and some odd seconds. If most people watched it once, I'd be surprised in its entirety, right?
I watched it about 10 times, to be honest, because I felt some type of way. I really did.
Yeah. And so, so to answer that question, like, how did I deal with that? I chose to kind of unplug from a lot of things in that space and in that moment. And I did that, probably for 3 months. And afterwards, I felt much more refreshed. And as I wrote about in that piece that we talked about at the top of your show, the Black media, the trauma between the headlines.
Yeah.
Some of these things end up on a loop in your head, like your head becomes a green screen, right? And this stuff is just projecting and projecting and projecting because you can't unsee it. And so I had to develop some better hygiene habits around how I was handling that type of content.
Yeah. I can imagine what this like to dissect the story so many different ways and footage. So my question that's racing in my head right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing what you saw with George Floyd, right? Do you feel like this was purposely? Like, do you feel like he purposely did what he did?
Who?
I do.
Derek Chauvin or George Floyd?
Derek Chauvin. I think he just had a vendetta out for black people. That's how I felt.
I don't know what was in his head, and that's something that police will tell you, right? When we all see the same thing, right? I don't know what he was thinking, but a jury thought differently about his actions.
That's right.
And as far as I'm concerned, that's where that it is.
Yeah, he got what he deserved.
They believed he had his due process. he had a luxury that George Floyd didn't have, which was due process, right?
Due process. Yes.
He had his civil rights violated by a sworn officer who was supposed to uphold the Constitution, and it's not their job to prosecute, convict, and in this case administer some punishment, right? And
right.
In this case, death. That wasn't his job.
That's right. Why do you think some of these police officers training doesn't kick in these type of moments?
I guess the pig is a human. I'm trying to see how I can say that.
Just from your own perspective.
I think a lot of times they choose to, right? First of all, I don't operate with a belief that every one of them is racist inherently. I don't operate from that premise. I don't believe that they all wake up with the intent of today's the day I'm going to go kill somebody. I don't believe that. I think, and based on my experience and my many interviews with officers, it is the bias that kicks in, right? Many of them are afraid of black men. They have been acculturated and conditioned to see that, similar to how you talked about that clip you played a little bit earlier when you racialize the crime from stereotypes as opposed to just dealing with the facts of what it is. So when all of that conflates and there's a gun involved, there's laws that give authority to use deadly force, poor tactics, not training. And that's another thing. Police always say they need more training. We need more training. We
That's really about money, though.
It's all about money, right? It's all about perk, and it's perks, right? It's them if they can get tactical training, that's fun to them, right? It's a trip. It's getting assigned to a task force. It's them living out their paramilitary war hero fantasies in their mind. But when the tactics put them in a position where they know the worst case scenario is that they're going to have to write a report, and they are very likely not going to be prosecuted. They're not going to, because of qualified immunity, face any personal penalties, either financially or their job. It just makes moving much differently, and their actions much differently.
I agree. And the penalties need to start happening a lot more. We're starting to see it somewhat, but I think it's just not enough. I honestly feel that with immunity being gone, they would straighten up a whole lot. A whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Because that's their shield. They can do what they want. They can say what they want. They can make up whatever they want on a person, like Chaz Jackson, like what's going on with him. Pimps are black, racial bias, all of it. And they have this thing where if the cop says it, the other cops gotta believe it.
You know what? An officer told me. He said it's going to be very difficult for you to understand this because of your bias, right? He said, and I'm not offering this as if I'm asking you to believe it. I'm just sharing with you what he told me, and for you to consider it, right?
Of course.
He said there is no such thing as a blue wall of silence. I said, of course there is. He said, it's not what you think it is. I said, what do you mean? He said, my job requires me that if you swear to it, if you lie to it and I swear to it, that's what happens. What I am protecting is, and he told me straight up, he said, I am only covering my own ass, not my partners. In most cases. Now, of course, there are plenty of examples, right, where we know that, the Goon Squad down in Louisiana and many others, right? I mean, this isn't an anomaly, but overall in their culture, they are trained as a paramilitary organization to protect the organism. And so what ends up happening is it's just like in any other gang, right? It's the young foot soldiers out there putting in work, right? They're the crash dummies, right? They're the ones that are on patrol. They're the ones who get the worst assignments in the areas where they feel like they need to make their bones because they're all trying to promote up. Well, you take that young officer and then you go 15 years later, maybe he's a sergeant now and he still has a union that will protect him. But as they continue to promote up, right, they're right at that 15 year where they can see a sunset at 20, they can get out the business or the job. They've stuck it out that long. They now are making, especially a state like California, $300,000 a year, with overtime and working 3 or 4 days, right? And on a desk, not doing, really dangerous, air quote, dangerous work, right? And so by the time the way the system is set up, right, the system is functioning exactly as it was intended. There's this thing called PROBARS, Peace Officers Bill of Rights, right? And I encourage all activists, in their local states, to read what PROBARS is and understand that kind of level of nobility, right? And how the nuance of that is in there, why a chief won't name an errant officer, not because he may not even believe, or he may believe the officer is crooked, right? He in his heart, he may see that he's crooked, right? But if he violates those rights, the city isn't liable, that chief is liable. So the system punishes those who actually speak out and those who actually would otherwise do right. So we get to that lieutenant space, right? Now they're in management. They have no union. They can be fired. So they all sit quiet. So the system continually protects those that are in it.
Yeah, I feel like when these instances happen, they just feel like they can just go and set at it. And because they're protected, they just go about their day. But the families, the families are at a loss in a big way because they don't have their loved one anymore. And they just get to live happily. So for what you just said, the unions that back them, how police stick together. I feel like the whole structure of that needs to be torn down from the root. Because this cycle will still continue if it's not. I really feel that way. I feel like the cycle will continue if we don't do what we need to do, fight change, create some policies that can really stop this immunity, like the Waukesha's law, for instance. That's great. And we need more of that. We need more of that, And from what I see, from my point of view, because I've had, run-ins with police just racially profiling me because I'm like dark. The reason, and I shared this with Melina Abdullah one time. The reason I don't have a beard is because when I was in Philly, that was the main reason I got stopped all the time. Tall, dark, with a bald head and a beard. And I'm like, yeah, right. Come on, man. You just want to really bother me just because of the way I look. And this happens everywhere in America. Not just my city, not just everywhere. So, in a lot of instances, when those things happen, people will run, and then cops will shoot, and cop gets right off. So, in your opinion, what do you think needs to be done on a large scale as far as immunity?
You're speaking about qualified immunity?
Yes, qualified immunity.
Well, because it is a doctrine and not an actual law, right? It needs to be put on the books to be outlawed, right? It needs to become law that is not a doctrine and something that just kind of gives them this pass, right? I will forever be changed sitting through the civil trial that the Joseph family, Andrew and Deanna and young sister Deja, had to experience over the, I believe, 10 days. And to hear police officers' testimony and hear them lie on the stand, to hear them after being admonished, the judge admonishing the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department about their conduct and behavior, and then they go out and try to intimidate a witness. This is all happening in the middle of a federal trial. It was unbelievable, right? It almost sounds fictionalized. But the extent that they would go through. I believe I wrote in that piece also. I remember Big Andrew coming out of the courtroom and his, big voice and
His voice.
that
Yes.
that joy that he had in that moment, right? That incongruency I found myself in with knowing that it was temporary,
Yeah.
because I knew that there would be an appeal, that power does not concede like that. It was an unprecedented um, jury award, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that was not the standard, right, that the state of Florida and certainly this particular county wanted to kind of have on their jacket. And so knowing that um, there would be an appeal and that qualified immunity would still be at the center of that legal argument um, was very real.
Yeah. I can
Very
imagine.
real, very real. And Pee
Yeah,
Wee.
and Deanna, I just spoke with her. I'm trying to get them to come on the show and share their story with the world so that they can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about this injustice and how people can help.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's boots on the ground, fighting for this injustice, helping every way we can.
And
Donations, whatever.
you
Whatever we can do to help, we're there.
Yeah, you talk, again, kind of revisiting, you're talking about the whole mental health aspect of it. And, we're talking about having to be present in this kind of capacity with people, right?
Right. It's taxing and damning, man.
Well, I am just as proud of my son as Big Drew is a Pee Wee, right? 5, right?
Right.
And to be around that family and have to be conscious to not say the word son almost makes me have to erase mine in that moment, because he is here. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. Man, listen. And that's hard.
and still crack jokes with Drew, right?
Right. It's hard. But life still has to go on. And although life is going on, he has support. They have support. We are here for them, supporting them. We're going to continue to do that, man, because that's what they need. So here's my next question. But before I go into the questions, because this is a real conversation right here. And one thing I could never imagine is having to go through that. So when a person loses a child, my mom lost my brother. I lost a brother, but she lost a son. What a parent goes through losing a child will forever stain them, and life will be forever hard going through that. And it's an experience that I've never been through. So my heart goes out to them. But for you to say what you said, that was a real thing, man. That was a real thing. And sometimes we have to realize how precious our gifts are, because at any given moment, one of these people out here can take them.
Mm-hmm.
These pigs can take them because that's what they like to do. You're just going to keep it all the way funky. This is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my next question. I'm sorry. I know I'm a little, off
You
the
good,
rail a
brother?
little bit today, but when it comes to this, I really feel some type of way about it, and no parent should ever have to lose a child that way. How do you deal with burnout, especially when covering emotionally heavy issues?
I don't think I do burn out. I think when it's like an assignment, then it is what it is, right? And so I'm able to, I guess, control the output or the scheduling, the pacing, however you want to look at it. And so there, I don't. It's like I said, it's this type of work is in me and not on me. It's not transactional.
That's right.
There's not a light switch. I remember Dr. Abdullah told me years ago, once you're woke, it's hard to sleep, right? And
It's
so,
harder to sleep.
so I encourage some to stay asleep, right? You don't want this side of it or this lens or this seat. You certainly don't want to be one of the Joseph parents, and you certainly don't want to be that person that every night after court, Big Drew comes and picks you up because I think he was preparing me for something. He was installing in me something that I know I will take with me for the rest of my life and in this work. And that was the sacred duty part of what was happening in that moment. There are things we talked about, laughed at, and different experiences and stuff that, me again, as a journalist, Drew didn't know me from can of paint, right? He didn't know me. Mike Brown Sr. didn't know me, right? Like but these brothers sat me down and allowed me to sit with them vulnerably, right? As they were just being themselves. And there are conversations that only they can relate to. Only them. I mean, I was sitting with three men who all had juniors or thirds, right? Who all had shared identities with their deceased sons, right? Who, where every time we call their names in remembrance, right? In honoring, right?
Yeah.
There's another human being with that same name, perhaps standing right there.
Yeah, and that's hard to deal with.
I can't imagine.
That's hard to deal with. My son is named after me, so I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
You lose your own identity.
Yeah, man. To have to go through that, it's just a troubling time, and it'll never heal. It'll never heal. And I've seen that up close. Those things, it's just a wound that will never heal.
So when last year when they had their 10th year remembrance of young Pee Wee, on my own dime, and not for an applause, don't hit the applause button, but on my own dime, I went back out there to be there. because I know what it's like, you know, and I've heard the stories, you know, the press was here and now they're gone. There was a relationship formed. And so I wanted to be present, right, and be there with them because there's a connected tissue, a connected event, a kinship. I think this work, I've met so many of the most wonderful people, lifelong relationships, most genuine people. People would enjoy their company again and again. Has come at tragedy, because of tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's good that you met some great people, but the circumstances behind it is, you know, it's sad in a way, you know, but you're a great support. And that's what a great friend is, man. You're a great friend, man. So Terry is on deck.
What's up, brother Terry? Terry out of Boise.
Yes, sir.
What's up, brother Terry? Twice in one day, man. I better go buy a lottery ticket.
Brother Terry, man, what's good, man? Thanks for watching as always. You're definitely a great support, man. I appreciate you. Yeah. This is something that, you know, I chose to do, and I chose to do this, like you said. I chose to do this. I chose to do this because I feel like these things need to be exposed just like you feel. I feel the same way. And although I am new on this walk in journalism and learning the ropes and just working, right? This side of it, I'm really new at it. You know, because I really talk the mental health side most of the time with a lot of people. And my activism started because I see that there's a need for it in the town that I'm in. First of all, I'm in a Confederate state for two, and
Pennsylvania.
No, I don't live in. I'm from Pennsylvania, but I live in North Carolina.
Say less.
Yeah. So, you know, my whole thing is, you know, I'm not afraid to fight. I'm not afraid to fight back. I'm not afraid to be a person and an advocate for injustice. I'm not afraid to fight for my community and the people that look like me, you know, and those that don't, you know, but when it comes down to it, you know, I'm here for our people, you know what I'm saying? And that's right. That's right, Terry. North Carolina, stand up. That's right. Black Lives Matter grassroots is Black Lives Matter. You already know.
You are, you know, and you know, this being the 12th year, right? That the formation of this and through the iterations of it, right? And through the nobility of those who are real stewards of this movement and doing the work, man. Every year I've watched the convening happen here in Los Angeles, and every year I've watched and met new humans, right? New people. You know, brother Terry from Boise. I'm like, Boise gonna need a chapter? You know what I mean? Like, you know, meeting brothers like you from North Carolina or from the Richmond chapter. But I know when I walked into the Center for Black Power, on that media day, right, when we were there with you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
That privilege that we had to be in that space and opening that door and seeing that room full of people, right? I was like, it gotta be 100 people in here, and to learn about the growth of the chapters, even now internationally. I think there's one in Sweden, yes, right. To see families there, right? To see people who have, in some cases, become involuntary members to a very exclusive club that they never sought an application for, right? You see them support one another. I get to see my buddy Enoch right out of the ATL, and Sister Queen out of the ATL, right?
Yeah, Queen.
And
she's my mentor, man. She's been instrumental in my activism and pushing me to continue as well.
And obviously, the work and the teaching of Dr. Abdullah, right? And the many others and stuff, man. And so, the work that you are doing individually and collectively that are being done through movement, I appreciate it, right? It's very noble.
Well, I'm glad you appreciate it. I'm just getting started, though. I'm just getting my feet wet.
If
only
you ain't in the water,
you some change. A week and some change since the convening. And I'm ready, man. I got a lot that I want to do, and with the support of my grassroots family, I know it's going to get done, and I can't wait. I'm very appreciative of this opportunity because serving the people is what God want me to do, and I'm going to do it.
What I've learned because of the proximity has to be the equivalent of a doctoral type of experiential thing, right? Observation, field type work, right? There's nothing in academia that can prepare you from holding the hand of a mother who lost her child who's still grieving, right? There's that, it's just not in a book anywhere. And so I am forever impacted. I understand my assignment. And most importantly, I know the truth about Black Lives Matter grassroots, and I know I can read. I'm literate.
That's right.
I know that the resources and the money were stolen, and it was not by Dr. Abdullah.
That's right. That's right. I get that question a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, y'all be stealing money. I'm like, nah. You got it confused, brother. You got it confused, sister. You talking about those folks on the other side over there. This organization is not that organization. Let's be clear. And once I break it down, I don't go into the full totality of it and it's, full capacity, like Dr. Molina said. You don't tell them the whole thing, but tell them what they need to know. And that's what I do. And with that being said, I make sure they get a full understanding of the difference. So Terry says, can you speak on Altadena and the disproportionate health effects to Black folks?
Whew. I am still
thinking again. Terry.
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question, Terry. But Terry sent me an article in the Guardian today. I believe it published today. And I have not gotten all the way through some of the research and links that are in that article, Terry. But two things. I appreciate you. One, I shared that with you via text for sharing that with me. The other thing is I was anticipating and waiting for another outlet to kind of dig a little bit deeper into that. what I know is that it is true, that the health effects on our community um, are even greater. Um, and I also know that, while there initially were 18 people that died immediately in the fire, and by that I mean, only thing left were their remains. Just I think about a month ago, they found the 19th victim, right? But we also know that they're not officially going to count people who may have went to the hospital because of smoke inhalation in the immediate aftermath of the fire, or any of the other long-term health effects that people were subjected to. Right now, as people, if you are in the most impacted area and you are your home, they call them lucky losers, right? You lucky your house survived, but everything around you is gone. And there's so many different pockets like that, 1, 2, 3 houses kind of spread out. But then you have to go back into those homes, and similar to like the East Coast, and that the housing inventory here in many of these homes is extremely old. My house is 101 years old, and so the asbestos, the lead, the other carcinogens and toxics that were there, cars completely, when you think of all the electronics that are in
All
people's
of this stuff
homes.
was amplified and just jumped up to a higher level.
Yeah,
because of the fire.
Because of the fire.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe a couple of weeks after the fire, we get a big rain, so that just kind of pushed it all into the soil. So, we're living on toxic soil, well, those who are, more so in the immediate area.
So how are people bouncing back? Now I know for some they're displaced, but what's going on over there now, where there's like some form of rebuild and recovery?
Fantastically, right? And imaginatively, right? As I said earlier, if Wakanda were a real place, Altadena would be one of its communities. And in this fictionalized place, perhaps there would be some vibranium that could just make it
Snap it
all
right back. Right.
That's not the reality of it. I mean, most of the properties that have been cleared, and by that we mean the debris has been removed. And so you're looking at a much flatter terrain. What survived initially were perhaps metal railings, washer and dryers, masonry structures like chimneys, and perhaps your porches were left on are still on the properties. They've leveled about 99% of all of that now. Currently there have been 138, I want to say 38, 30, 40 permits for people to build or begin a process of rebuilding. But remember, there's over 9,000 structures that were destroyed. And so for many people, it is going to be a 5-year process. In California, you need a permit for everything. And so that's just one part of the process. Altadena also had a population that was aging in place, a lot of seniors, a lot of multi-generational homes or homes on lots. All of that has been compounded now with the desire to rebuild, with folks being underinsured and many folks uninsured.
Yeah.
Dealing
And
with
speaking of which, I wanted to know, is it true that the insurance companies were saying that they won't cover some of these places because of the fires? being so, because of it being so many houses and whatnot. Is that true?
So if you have insurance, you have insurance. If you don't, you don't. Right. The insurance is for that moment when it happens. The problem with those who were if you have insurance and you had the best possible coverages, right, which most people won't, right? I mean, most people, the last major fire in this area was probably 30 years ago. There are fires up in the foothills all the time. Fire typically burns up, not down. You're dealing with causation, that utility pole that should have been that was decommissioned and should have been removed over 50 years ago. So there's negligence there. But back to the insurance question, if you are underinsured, which means you have some insurance but not quite enough, right? If it costs you let's just use $500 per square foot to rebuild 1,000 square foot house, that's $500,000, right? You could have insurance and you only had $250,000 worth of coverage, right? Okay. You short. That shortness will increase over time as materials, labor, and everything else increases.
You're going to need a lot.
Right. And so some people are having to make a very personal and individual decision on whether or not they want to sell their land. I think, and I would encourage your listeners and even you, if this conversation comes back to you in some way of, man, they shouldn't sell their land. I hope they don't sell. Well, guess what? It ain't your call. You didn't lose your house.
Right. You didn't lose everything to a
you
fire.
You didn't lose your memory.
Family heirlooms.
Everything. I mean, your favorite spoon, shoes, socks, and everything in between, right? And so allow people the ability to make an individual and personal choice that is best suited. The chorus and the choir singing, y'all need to do this, knock it off. Just knock it off. Find a family or an organization, not none of these larger corporate nonprofits, but if there's an organization that you are familiar with, or a family that you are familiar with, or that you can trust, I would, that $5 cup of coffee, send it. That $100 on yak and whatever else for the weekend, send it, right? Whatever that is that you're going to do, you do that to help an individual.
I want to thank you for everything that you've said today and all the information that you've given my viewers, because you're on the west, I'm on the east, of course, and a lot of my listeners are on the East Coast, so they don't really get to know how deep it is out there when it comes to these fires. And I'm happy to shed some light on that. I'm glad that you shed light on that. And people need help. So one way that they can get the help is to highlight it. Terry posted this. I don't know if you could read it, but he said, "Black media, y'all are heroes. Until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero."
That's true.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I never heard that, but it's pretty dope.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna leave that up there for a few more seconds. But yeah, man. I thank you for taking the time to do this interview with me. And I want to ask you 2 more questions before we get out of here. Okay. What would you say to your younger self starting your media journey, highlighting these stories and exposing truths? What would you say to yourself?
That's
Your younger self.
that's an interesting. I would tell my younger self, thank you for being open to it. Thank you for planting the seed. Um, I'd go anecdotal and say, the best time to have planted a tree, right? Since we're going to stay in this space of grassroots, right? A seed
right.
literally has to kill itself or explode, right? And then grow down before it can grow up. The best time to have planted a tree for shade was 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 40 years ago, or in my case, 51 years ago. The next best time to plant that tree for shade is right now. So I would thank my younger self for planting, tending, and empowering me to harvest what seeds were sown into me as a kid.
Amen. Amen. Listen, man. Thank you for coming. Anything you want to say to the people before we get off?
I love that first song you played at the top of the show. I wrote down the name of it. Hold on, brother. Don't tell me because I wrote it down. Don't Cry, right?
Yeah. It's called Wait on God. That's Big Lee. That's one of my friends.
Okay.
His name is Big Lee. He's a young boy, but he got his head on right.
That was life rap, right? That was some life music. So I appreciate that. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep showing up. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep showing up. Do it for the cause, not the applause.
That's
right. Stay in it for the story and not the glory.
That's right.
Always be real. Fake don't work.
That's right.
So keep doing this.
Listen, I ain't got no other choice but to be real. With everything I've been through in life, I already know God told me this was the purpose I put you on for a specific reason. I'm not going backwards. And like you said, once you wake up, you can't stay asleep. And that's what happened to me. I had my moment where I was asleep, and now I'm awake. So
I'm gonna challenge
I'm just gonna work as hard as I can.
You and Terry both to look up Michael Zenzen. That would Michael's from Pasadena, was an activist. I mean, he really was Black Lives Matter before Black Lives Matter, in so many different ways, especially in an inclusive way, right? But one of his favorites, and he started out just like you and I. He was a community journalist and everything. He was an activist. He was really about the people. But one of his favorite sayings was "Forward ever, backwards never," and that is just how we got to keep moving.
That's right. Forward ever, backwards never. That's right. And I think I'm gonna start saying that from now on, because that's how I truly feel. I truly feel that, this journey that I'm on was necessary because life hit me in a different way where my thought process changed, my way of life changed, and so much has happened to where I can't go back to what I used to be, and that's in a positive way as far as so much has happened. So I can't hold on to what was. I only can be what is now, and thank you for all the advice that you give me. Thank you for supporting me, for one, and thank you for coming on, man, because it means a lot to me. Definitely does.
I appreciate the invitation, for real. I really do. Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening to me, and I receive everything you're doing, brother. And just keep it going.
All right. So stay on, but I'm about to close out with the folks. All right. So cut your camera on, and I'll mute your mic. And we are about to get into it. Folks, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode and really got some gems out of it. And for me, it's not really about the gems, it's about the wisdom. Well, the gems is wisdom, of course, but for me it was more about the art of storytelling. James does that. He has an art to it. And what he does is awesome, highlighting these stories. I only hope that, as time goes on, I'll be just as good as this brother because he's awesome. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I hope you guys stay safe, put God first, and stay focused out here. Be diligent. And when you see injustice, don't just look, say something. Fight the good fight. And if you want to know more about what we do here in North Kakalaki, listen, I'm recruiting. My chapter is new, y'all. I'm looking for people. So if you would love to join the North Carolina chapter of Black Lives Matter Grassroots, I will send you the information here. So here's where you can go, okay? Check it out. It's going to be at the bottom of the screen. All right? Give me a second. I got y'all. Boom. Here we go. So, visit blacklivesmattergrassroots.org. You want to know. And listen, y'all can always DM me. Y'all know my socials. I ain't hard to find. Tigmatic everywhere. I ain't hard to find, y'all. But with that being said, this has been another edition of The Pot. Hollywood TV, Hollywood Radio, Dollar Radio, Going In Radio, DDS, and your boys out. As always, stay blessed. Peace.